Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Inside to Stevenson, up against Kaminsky, fucking good in the ball!
Santel, all the way to the basket, foul, lays it in for two!
Hello, high school basketball fans, and welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Happy New Year. I'm Jim Sinicropi along with Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here in the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls. And we're going to recap the kind of a slow week in high school basketball because of the holiday. Maybe go back and talk about a couple games that happened before Christmas. We've been away for about 2 weeks. We did release a new power ranking last week, but we've got some big games ahead, so we're going to start to look into the future now that we're in 2024 and the holiday breaks behind us. High school basketball heating up over the next couple months here in the Finger Lakes. And we'll also reveal our new Week 4 boys and girls power rankings. So welcome back. New year, fresh slate of high school basketball coming up here on FingerLakes1.com. And the Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Generations Bank, serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Little John and Barbie Orthodontics. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com. Rosselli Northern, supporting local construction since 1929 with premium products and quality service. Dr. Jeffrey Halstead, Canandaigua's hometown dentist for more than 35 years. Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant, order online at cicinos.com. And DeSanto Propane since 1937. The difference has been DeSanto. Paul and Kyle, I hope that you guys enjoyed your Christmas and New Year's break. And, we're still covering the games that were being played and didn't do a podcast last week. But from here on out, it's basically a sprint to sectionals now, January to a couple weeks into February, and it's sectional time. So we do got a lot to talk about. We got a clearer picture, I think, of who some of the elite teams maybe in the Wayne Finger Lakes are, who some of the sectional contenders are. And it seems like an interesting year, a little different in some regards. Some traditional strong programs are down a little bit, and some programs are on the upswing. But I guess, guys, first we just look at some of the games that happened over the past couple of weeks. And I know this morning, Kyle, we were talking about the Lions girls having a tough go of it against Batavia Notre Dame.
Yeah, they struggled with turnovers. I think that's kind of been their issue lately. J. LaBelle is, usually the difference maker if they win or not. And she had kind of a down game, got into some foul trouble. Lions is now sitting at 4-3. I believe they got off to a 4-1 start, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So they've dropped a few, and they have a tough matchup tomorrow night.
That would be at Minders.
Yep.
Right, the game that you can hear on Finger Lakes 1. Paul, talk a little bit, I guess, about some of the, we've got a close look at a couple teams so far, the Minders boys, and then you went to Palmac and saw the girls. Waterloo girls a little bit down, so sticking with the girls theme, just talk about what's going on in the Finger Lakes East girls.
Wide open, I think, is a fair assessment in a way. I think at the moment I still maybe lean advantage Palmac, but as you kind of mentioned, Jim, right? We're really, to be fair, only 3, maybe 4 weeks, depending upon how you really want to consider that first weekend after Thanksgiving through the season, really. And even then, I don't want to do the look ahead too much right now because we're looking back. But even this week, right, there's not like a ton of games. Now, there are games, right? Each team, there's a few teams that do have multiple, but, especially out of the gate here, like tonight, there's not a ton on Tuesday here, right?
First game after a holiday.
Right.
Teams don't necessarily like to play when they can't practice the day before.
So, there's not a ton to maybe gauge from this week, but you'll get the inclination, I think, really here in the next coming days because, at this point, you know what you got. You know who you're facing. We're really, January is an interesting month, right, because if you're coming off of the break and you go hard for really about 2.5 weeks, and then you got the midterm stuff coming up as well, so that's usually a slower week too, and then you get into really the hardcore stuff, right? But yeah, the Finger Lakes East for girls is interesting. I said edge to Paul Mac. I still think, until I get proven otherwise, as I call it, I still think the Waterloo girls will, at the very least, will be competitive in this some way, somehow. I have a hard time believing they wouldn't be. Minders girls are definitely going to have a say in this, I would imagine. The newer girls are going to have a say in this, I would imagine. And then outside of that, the Wayne girls appear to be, they were able to pick up a win over the holiday break as well. They appear to be
Waterloo.
Yeah, they appear to. Well, that was before holiday break.
Oh, okay.
That was that overtime game, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and so they appear to be, at least one of those teams that you probably don't want to catch on the right night for them. So, I definitely envision it being a little bit wide open, edge to Pal Mac, but that's the beauty of it this year, like you said, Jim. There's just a lot of competitive top end of league stuff. There's not a ton of maybe bad teams at the top of these leagues like we sometimes maybe see sometimes year to year, but
Lions Independent, Wayne County Boys League is wide open. East Rochester looks to be like the team to beat there. Wayne County girls, Godanda girls are good, a traditional good squad, and they're good again. East Rochester girls, the Lions girls should have a say in that as well. And then if you go to the West, some good teams at the top, Bloomfield and Dundee, Bradford, and then the boys is pretty balanced, pretty deep. A lot of teams can win games any night in the West, and then the Finger Lakes East boys, you've got the Newark Reds and the Wayne Eagles. Looks like it's going to be a two-team race with maybe Newark and Minders and Geneva. Right. But yeah, exciting stuff. So looking ahead to the week that was here, and then also maybe mention a couple things that happened before Christmas as well. For the boys, last Friday, a week ago Friday, Wayne and Palmac met, and Wayne got the win 64-53, 22 points from Cam Blankenberg, PJ Ostrowski with 14. So that was not an unexpected result, but a rivalry game there that Wayne was able to capture. Geneva boys are an interesting team this year. They also on that same night beat Midlake 69-34. And then on the girls, if you go back prior to this past week, you had Dundee Bradford girls staying undefeated with a 63-50 win over a good Bloomfield team. Kaylee Yeoman with 17 points, but it was Kendall Parker 16, which got her to 1,000. So 1,000 points, Kendall Parker. Congratulations. Last Thursday night. And then last Friday, a really interesting matchup between a resurgent Newark girls program who traveled to Seneca Falls to take on Minders. And in a good game, Minders improved to 5-1 with a 49-42 win. Maddie Verke had 18 points. Chelsea Korzeniski had 10 for Newark. Karina Natali, she's just a freshman, but she's kind of been making this team go, was held to 5 points in that game. Takayla Vaughn had 10. Arizona Chapel had 8, and Naomi Jones had 7. So now we'll jump ahead to the past 7 days, which there hasn't been that many games. Christmas was Monday. New Year's was the following Monday. But there we get a look at the complete slate. And guys, I guess I kind of want to talk about that Waterloo-Whitman game. Waterloo lost a lot from that state championship team, obviously. But they've also been dealing with injuries.
Yeah, this is the boys' side.
Oh, we're looking at
Yeah.
boys first. Okay, my bad. Well, Waterloo boys versus Whitman boys,
Yeah.
interesting too. 51-45 win for the Whitman boys. Also, from last week, you saw Minders travel down to South Seneca to Ovid to play South Seneca Romulus in a 67-35 win there. Griffin Hillmeyer had 14, Jack Brady had 12. Kenny Halsey led South Seneca Romulus with 16. The second time Minders played South Seneca this year already. And so they handled them pretty good there. But that Waterloo-Whitman game that we're talking about, Brody Royston had 20 points. Logan Storms had 10, and Miles Pendergrass had 6. And Marcus Whitman playing in the East. Waterloo boys, they're about, 4 years removed from that sectional championship game against Geneva in the Blue Cross Arena. And this was a big game, I think, for Marcus Whitman in the fact that they are playing in a big league. They're a sectional contender in Class C, but they need to get sectional points, so they have an easier path to it. And playing in the Finger Lakes East, wins can be few and far between. We saw Minders beat them a couple of weeks ago, but they did get this win against Waterloo, which is some nice sectional points.
Yeah, I think, too, actually, they're B2 technically with that restructure that got done this year. But,
Yeah, they are.
yeah, it was that's an interesting game, too, because, this is a Waterloo team that I expected to be probably a little bit better than they are, admittedly. And who knows, right? It's still early enough in the season that things get turned around, right? And, but, either way, you want to talk about a nice bounce-back league win for the Wildcats, obviously. That's the way to do it, to go out and play a B1 team that, you could, in theory, see later on in the season anyway, sectional time, but they'll still have one more go-around with them by the end of the season, league-wise. Pretty good job there by Coach O'Connor's bunch.
Yeah, and it was actually their first league win of the year.
Yeah.
So they were 1-3, yes, or 1-2.
They're going to be playing. Well, Mid Lakes is back in the East, but then you got Geneva, Newark, Minders, who they lost to in Seneca Falls, Wayne, Newark. I mean, the wins are few and far between, and they don't play a total pushover of a non-league schedule too. So you don't want to get into a sectional bracket that you could potentially win as like a 8 or 9 seed.
Right.
So especially like to get a home game or two if you can. But also going back to last week on the boys' side, Gananda played Cal Mum. Now Cal Mum's out to a 3-5 start, but traditionally a power team in the C classes of Section 5. Gananda boys moved to 7-3 with that win, 86-76. Miles Cavanis with 26 points on 6 3-pointers. Cooper Grassel had 17. Braden Dosh had 14, and Hunter Vogt had 11. And so this Gananda boys team is playing well. Wayne showed up in their tournament that they played over the holiday week with a 61-45 win over Rochester Prep, and they also won the next game. I believe it was on Saturday. Cam Blankenberg, 25 points there. Newark with a big win against Rochester Academy, 68-65 to keep their record perfect at 7-0. 22 from Colin Foster, 13 from J. Parr Allen. Janor Allen also had 13. Terrell Jenkins had 11. Saturday on the boys' side, East Rochester moved to 8-0 with a 48-39 win over C.G. Finney. And traditionally, C.G. Finney is a tough team to play. They're 5-4 after that loss, but it's tough, we don't see a lot of East Rochester. Ray Allen had 12 points and 7 rebounds. Dan Preston had 11, but they're 8-0. So anything stand out to you guys on the boys' side? East Rochester, Gananda boys, both look good. Wayne's not in Wayne County. I mean, that could be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, kind of already talked about them a little bit. They already played once this year, and I know East Rochester came up top there, but yeah, just a couple things stood out. I mean, obviously Cavanis with what was it, 6 threes? That's I sometimes you see those numbers still, and I know the way the game's played now, it still kind of catches you off guard a little bit like that. Of note, quick though, keep it Wayne County-esque here, but Newark, we mentioned a bunch of other guys, right? But this is the first time we've seen Eric Finn pop up in the stat sheet so far for us this year, the big fellow down low, so that's pretty good to see as well. But go back to Wayne County quick for a second, obviously with East Rochester, Ganonda. I know the game they didn't play at all last week, but Sodas will be an interesting team to watch out up there too with. It seems as though they've, over the course of the past couple weeks, have crept onto our radar a little bit more, for sure.
Yeah,
But
I didn't mention them.
yeah, but it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we know Ganonda and East Rochester rivalry, and they got one more probably to determine the league title with in that regard later on. So it's going to be a fun month of January. Keep an eye on the Bombers and the Panthers, I'd say.
Yeah, one of the games that I put down to watch this week was actually Thursday. The East Rochester boys head to Sodas to take on the 5-1 Spartans. So we'll see how much Sodas can put up a fight.
Yeah, no, that's good to see. Wayne County League's great, and it's good to see Sodas. Maybe have a chance to make a statement on Thursday night. So, flip over to the girls. Action from the past week. Newark girls bounced back from that loss to Minders on Wednesday with a 69-46 win over Brockport. Karina and Tally with 20 points, 9 assists, and 4 steals. to Kayla Vaughn with 13 points and 10 rebounds. Dundee Bradford girls improved to 6-0 on Wednesday night with a 57-19 win over Addison. Kendall Parker now has 1,020-something points because she had 21.
As a junior.
Yeah, just a junior, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. The Dundee Bradford girls have been solid for the past several years, but this looks like a team that they really have high hopes for in Dundee. Bruna Crespo, 10 points, and Michaela Schaffner with 10 as well for Dundee Bradford. In that one, the Waterloo girls did pick up a win last week on Thursday night, beating Our Lady of Mercy out of Rochester 53-43 to improve to 5-3. Gwen Panic with 17 points, Macy Muller with 14. I think that might have been her first game back from an injury. Addison Bree might be out for an extended period of time. They're dealing with injuries in Waterloo on top of the losses that they got from their senior class. They're a young team as it is, but trying to build back up here. But Addison Bree did play in that game and have 7 points. Tanjay Williams with 8 points as well. On Saturday, we talked about that Lions-Notre Dame-Batavia game, which Lions only scored 33 points in a 14-point loss. Carmela Parker led the team with 14 in that one. So I guess, guys, time to maybe reveal our power rankings. And this is kind of the first month of power rankings. There's a lot of movement. From this point on, we shouldn't see too much crazy movement unless teams really get hot or cold. But let's see what we got here. What's first, boys or girls?
Oh, let's do girls first.
All right.
As I click on the boys, of course. So
let's do
we'll
boys
do boys
then. Newark, number 1, Lions number 2, Wayne number 3. Our Lions and Wayne tied for number 2, I suppose. Man, I think that would certainly motivate the boys in Wayne and Coach Thompson. Those Wayne Newark games are going to be great this year, for sure. And then Geneva boys up to the top, inside the top 5 at number 4. East Rochester undefeated, only up to 5, and that's kind of the issue here when we try to evaluate teams from different leagues. Usually Finger Lakes East teams regarded as the stronger league, but you can't keep East Rochester down for too long. We'll see if they, with a win on Sodas Thursday night, can get into the top 4 next week. Palmac boys, some losses over the offseason, trying to kind of find an identity. We talked about the Ganonda boys. They come in at 7. Minders boys at 8. That Minders boys team's a fun team to watch. I got to admit, they're a pretty unselfish team and seem to enjoy playing with each other. Tied for 9th is Bloomfield, HAC, and their Sodas. So any comments on the top 10? I mean, I personally, I kind of I have a tough time putting Wayne in number 1. I can't remember what my ballot even said, but looking at that now, I Wayne and Newark 1, 2. I don't know. I think they're both a little better than Lions. Geneva beat Lions, yet Lions is still ahead. What do you guys think?
Well, for me, and it's the same thing I'll say on the girls' end of it. First and foremost, I had the same ballot from 2 weeks ago as I did this week, because of just teams either won a game or were idle or went 500 last week, and it's just what can you do with it at that point, right? But secondly, I think for me personally, as long as you keep winning, I have a hard time exactly moving you down in an instance, I guess. I don't know. It's one of those things where, to me, and, maybe you are right. Maybe if Lions and Wayne were to meet, Wayne would win. I don't think we'll see that this year, as far as I know, but
They played last year.
yeah, last year. But either way, until kind of proven otherwise, I kind of got to roll, I think, with Lions at least holding that 2 spot for the time being. As long as they kind of keep winning, I can't see them dropping below that mark, at least for me personally anyway, as it stands right now.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. I think we'll never see these teams play each other, so we won't know, which one is better.
I want to
And-
see Lions play Newark, but
Yeah. And for me, Geneva, I kind of mentioned this off air earlier. They've only played 4 games.
Yeah.
I get it though. They beat Lions, they beat Pelmac, so really strong wins there. But just 4 games, and everyone else has played. It looks like 7, 8, 9 games. So I need to see a little bit more from them. And they play Northeast tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, they're not very good this year. So we'll see how that goes. But then they get Minders and Avon, a non-league game next week. So I think we'll know more about Geneva and if East Rochester could potentially move up in the power rankings.
What about East Rochester in 5th, though? Like, what now? Lions goes independent. Would East Rochester and Granada still be in the mix if Lions stayed in Wayne County this year? I mean, and Sodas too.
That's a good point.
It might have been a good year for Wayne County basketball, even with Lions staying in Wayne County.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, right? I mean, you don't know what actually will happen until they were to meet on the hypothetical court in this situation. So I think they all do still play each other once, though, I believe, if I remember right anyway. So, we'll see that obviously as the next month and a half plays out. But I guess until those matchups actually come to fruition, I guess we just won't quite know until we see it happen.
Some of these guys might have a chip on the shoulder when Lions comes to town. East Rochester, Granada, Sodas, that they bolted the league, which I don't think was a bad decision by Coach Schott, the way things have gone the past couple of years. But ironically, the Wayne County looks strong this year, so.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's always tough, too, to forecast. I mean, you don't even know sometimes a week before your season starts actually who your roster actually just may end up being sometimes, right? I mean, you don't know. Kids are kids, right? They're part of families. You don't know who might move, who might get hurt, who knows what, right? So
Who's getting NIL money?
Well, luckily I don't think we're dealing with that yet here in Section 5 as far as I know, but you never know, I guess.
All right, let's move ahead and look at the girls.
All right, there we go.
Granada at the top.
Yep.
Dundee Breast. So look at this. You got a Wayne, East, and West team in the top 3. And then you got 2 more Wayne County teams before you even get back down. Now, Finger Lakes East fans and coaches might argue like that just should never happen. The Finger Lakes East teams are in their down years are still better than some of these Wayne County teams, but I don't know. Again, I don't know this year. Dundee Bradford does play Minders coming up here, and that's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a test of that theory, right?
Yeah. Because
Dundee Bradford, with that win over Bloomfield, I think certainly the top team in the Finger Lakes West. And now they're going to face Minders, who's we talked about how balanced the East is. So, but then you got Newark, Minders, of course, beating Newark, so that's why they might be ahead of the Reds. And then Waterloo hanging on at 8, Bloomfield at 9 out of the West, and then the Wayne girls making an appearance in the top 10, which is not something we've seen recently. I don't know if they'll stay, but certainly a lot of more balance, I think, between the top and bottom of the girls' top 10. I mean, it's pretty wide open. I think we'll see a lot of movement in there over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to go back the past couple of years is kind of how good teams have been out of the girls' side of things. I think we've had more girls' teams have deeper runs, for example, than guys recently, and I think that's just a testament to maybe the talent overall on the girls' side of things more than anything else. And it kind of shows on the power rankings a little bit here, right? You know, through years past, and this year is another good example of pick any of these leaders from these leagues, right? And they would have a certain and fair shot to go and win a sectional title at worst, in my mind. And
Yeah, I think everybody on that list
Yeah.
has got a good shot, or a decent shot. I think you notice like Minders was a little ahead of Newark. I think Minders has a much better chance than Newark because Minders is going to play in a smaller classification for sectionals, where Newark will be playing bigger schools when they break out. I want to even say Class A for Newark this year. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but like I say, I think those are all teams that should have a sectional championship on their list of goals.
And, you know, they all have, and this is something that, at least for me anyway, I can't say necessarily on the boys' side, but the girls' side of things, there's a lot more teams in that top 10 that have firepower going for them on all fronts than the boys' side. The boys' side, yeah, there's a lot of good team ball, but on the girls' side, you got a lot of good team ball and a lot of good, just like flat-out individual players as well throughout that top 10, you know?
I agree with that.
Yeah, for me, I think Dundee Bradford is really good. I mentioned this in, I think, our last podcast. They knocked out Lions last year. Excuse me. Kendall Parker has been a big part all along. Like I've said, she's only a junior and already over 1,000 points. Seems like every night they kind of get that secondary scoring too. So I think Dundee Bradford's really good, and I think Ananda is really good too. I think Lions has some stuff to prove though on the girls' side. You know, dropping these past few games. How legit are they? Are they going to go on a run again? And I know East Rochester's really good. You got the Eldridge sisters, I believe, right? Still both playing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's so weird to see Waterloo though 8th. I mean, what is it? The last 4 or 5 years, they've always been 1 or 2, maybe 3 at worst.
Yeah, most
So
of one.
yeah,
But yeah, that's the way high school basketball goes. It's cyclical. The group that Coach Bree has now, I think it's going to be great in a couple years. So it's just part of that process. And when you get a team like that, when you kind of rebuild after losing a lot to graduation, you know, the sooner you can get there, the better it gets. So, you know, I think that they're a team that will probably get better as the year goes on, and then certainly be a team that we're looking at next year as well. But, you know, sectional title this year, I don't know. Again, they're playing, are they in?
They're B1.
They're B1, okay.
Yep.
So they're B1 with Minders.
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, look at the week ahead, because here we go. We're getting started. We've already talked about a couple games, but let's take a look at what we got on the boys' side of things that stands out. Wellsville coming up to play Waterloo on what that be tomorrow night, Wednesday night? Yeah.
Those games always intrigue me because Wellsville's, we talk about them a ton, right? There is a team that somehow one of the Finger Lakes East teams always plays in sectional time. So that's a really good barometer test, I think, for what those, especially in the B1 teams, right, can see in a Wellsville team this year.
Yeah, and again, you're going to want to win these out-of-league games when you can because the East is going to be tough for them.
Mm-hmm.
You got Penn Yan at Newark. That's not an East game. Penn Yan playing in the West now. Midlake's coming back to the East. I don't know. I guess you figure out who's going to be worse and move them to the West. I don't know about that. And then Livonia taking on Marcus Whitman, I think, for the second time this
Yes.
year. They won the first time around. And then we go to Thursday night, East Rochester at Sodus. Kyle, that's the one you were talking about. We're going to learn probably more about Sodus, who we haven't – they've been on our radar, but you know, this undefeated East Rochester team coming to town in a big league battle on a Thursday night in January. That'll be a good one. Then looking ahead to Friday night, you got Palmac coming to Waterloo. You got Wayne at Midlakes, and then Geneva and Minders. How about that one?
Yep.
I mean, that might be one of the games of the week. And then Lions going to the Finger Lakes West. Now that, if we were making odds, I think Lions would be big favorites. But again, you know, got one of the better teams in the West taking on Lions. It's a good barometer for the West as a whole. So, or at least the top of the West, I'll say. But yeah, Geneva Minders, that's a really big game for both teams, I think.
I mean, it's just a big game period, too, league implication-wise, team-wise. I mean, and I know it's tough. We're locked in for our game on Friday already, back up in Palmac on the girls' side of things.
What are real quick, 2 games we're doing?
Yeah, so tomorrow night, me and Kyle will be we'll be here in Seneca Falls at Minders for Lions and Minders girls, so looking forward to that.
Nice.
And then Friday, we'll have Waterloo Palmac girls up in Palmac, myself and I'm not too sure if it'll be Dylan Gilmore or Andrew Jeanette, but one of the guys up there will be for what was a really good game last year, and it's been
Game of the year, maybe.
I mean, you want to talk about a series that's been like war? That series has been war for the past few years, so we're looking forward to the next battle in that installment on Friday night.
You're going to get a first-hand look for the first time at the Lady Tigers.
Yeah.
And report back here on the podcast next week for sure. So some good games. Kyle, anything standing out to you there on the boys' side?
Just something on that Geneva Minders game. If Minders were to win that game, they'd be tied in the league standings. So they'd be 2-2 in league play. So
Along with Geneva.
Yep. So big game.
Which would put them like in what, 3rd or 4th?
Yeah, 3rd, 4th.
You got Wayne and Newark.
Yeah, Wayne's 3-0 in league. Newark's 4-0. Yep. So it would be 2-2, third, tie for 3rd. Yep.
Geez, if Minders can finish 3rd in the Finger Lakes East or Geneva, I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't forget Newark went to the state Final Four last year. They did lose Braden, Steve, and some others, but they returned a really good team of contributors to that state Final Four run. And then Wayne, I think this is the last Blankenberg coming through, but Cam Blankenberg may be the best of the bunch when it's all said and done when comparing him to other Blankenbergs. But the Ostrowski kid is great, and geez, I can't wait for Wayne Newark this year. Do you have any idea when that is off the top of your head? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I can pull it up.
But they got to be coming up soon, and then they'll play because they play twice.
Sorry for the delay.
Geez, you got to go through the whole schedule.
Wayne Newark. That's January 12th next week. Or no, next
Friday? January 12th will be next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday.
All right, wow.
In Wayne.
That one's in Wayne.
Yep.
Yeah, game of the year in the Finger Lakes East so far, I think. So, all right. Anyway, boys, any closing shots here?
Do you want to take a quick look at the girls' schedule overall? Or?
Oh, we didn't look at that yet?
No.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we probably should look
Do
at
that
the
quick.
There's that game on Thursday, Lions at Minders. You can listen to that on FingerLakes1.com. And, yeah, that game's really interesting. I think the Minders girls should handle their business. But I think if Lions makes it a physical game, it could throw Minders off. But I got Minders as 10-point favorites there maybe. And then you got South Seneca at Marcus Whitman in the West.
That game's pretty intriguing, at least for me personally, because those are two. Now, Whitman, we know, has been competitive at least this year, but South Seneca has been a team the past few weeks since the season's got going that's started to flex a little bit of muscle. So that's a really intriguing game out west. I don't think, admittedly, either of those teams probably go up against Dundee Bradford this year in the West, but it's a pretty good barometer test for where they probably should feel themselves throughout the rest of the season, that game.
Yeah, South Seneca, not too distant memory, we're going to state Final Fours. Marcus Whitman's program under Liz Royston's been on the upswing. So, it'll be a good barometer game in the West. Then Friday night is some real interesting games. First and foremost, you got Minders at Dundee Bradford, and then that Waterloo at Palmac game. But Minders Dundee Bradford, really interesting matchup, as we mentioned. Undefeated Dundee Bradford girls out of the West playing what we were just talking about. Team near the top of the Finger Lakes East.
Yeah, this is what we all, I think, ultimately hope for when we talk about these matchups hypothetically. And should be one to really look forward to. Obviously, for me, I'll be trying to keep tabs as best I can from afar, but I'm sure that would be whatever they call them there, the quad box. If you had that option for YouTube TV for
You can
for
pull
the
it up
games
on
there.
YouTube. I don't know where Dundee Bradford streams, but that game's at Dundee Bradford, right? So that's going to be a long bus ride for Minders, who will be home tomorrow night and then on the road on Friday night.
Yeah, and Dundee Bradford's probably going to go into that game 8-0 because on Thursday, the day before, they play Romulus.
Oh, yeah.
So Minders will have a chance to potentially hand them their first loss of the year.
Yeah, that's definitely the most intriguing matchup of the week for me, because we're going to see, if Dundee Bradford's a real deal, I suppose. We know that they're a good squad, and we know that they'll compete within their class, but if they can go up a class and beat a team like Minders, that certainly bodes well for them, looking forward and into sectionals.
Yeah,
so, I think that's a team with aspirations to go maybe beyond a sectional title.
Yeah, and they probably do. I mean, that Dundee Bradford team lost in sectional finals last year to who ended up making it anyway to the Far West Regional in Buffalo in Pavilion York, who was just I was able to see them in person last year only because we were up there for the Waterloo girls, and that was a really good team that they came across in Pavilion York. So. I'm with you, Jim. I imagine the Brave Scots are probably more keen on stuff beyond the first weekend in March, is my guess.
The Brave Scots.
Yes. Combo nicknamed.
Well, Happy New Year's, guys.
Happy New Year to you, too.
2024 should be, at least the first couple months, should be some exciting high school basketball around here.
Yeah.
So get out to the gyms, pull up the streams on YouTube, and get ready for some good basketball. And thanks for joining us here on the Upstate Hoops Podcast. Connect with us on Facebook, X, and TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and our audio-only podcast is available most everywhere you enjoy audio content. You can also find our show live stream games and local news, weather, and sports 24/7 on the free FingerLakes1.com Android or iPhone app. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Monday afternoon. Until then, have a great first week of 2024.